So what do you do when two high-end Android devices come to the same carrier? What's going down, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and T-Mobile customers, well, as of the 15th at least, have two awesome options to choose from when it comes to Android. The HTC Sensation 4G coming out for $200, the T-Mobile G2x made by LG, an awesome device that's already out on the nation's fourth largest wireless carrier. Both are cool Android devices, both are dual core, and they have their own unique benefits. This has Gingerbread and Sense 3.0. This has Android 2.2, but it's a stock build of Android 2.2, so it's much faster, at least theoretically, much faster than some of these manufacturer-installed overlays like Sense, TouchWiz, and more. Which one's the best? Well, we'll find that out in the dogfight, but first, special thanks to our guys at Best Buy. They've hooked us up with so many phones for use during One Paw Bandit game. Actually, some G2X's on the way, and some sensations, if we play our cards right, may come as well. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you don't have to deal with rebates. You walk in to buy either of these devices, they'll hook you up. You don't have to, I like money in my pocket. I like walking out with extra money in my wallet, and you don't deal with rebates at Best Buy Mobile. Enough of that, let's get into it. Dogfight, Sensation 4G, T-Mobile G2X, perhaps one of the coolest, most important, hottest, awesomest dogfights ever, and it starts right now. Two hot, high-end Android devices, both on T-Mobile, and it really presents one of those challenges where you're like, which one do I buy? The HTC Sensation 4G comes out on June 15th for $199.99 after mail-in rebate. The G2X, made by LG, branded as T-Mobile G2X, is already out on the carrier. Now, it just got a price increase, but it's still there, and both are fantastic. But we've got to decide, this is a dogfight. One has to win in the dogfight. So HTC Sensation 4G, we'll do a quick run through the specs here. 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon processor over here, 4.3-inch QHD display. So this is a high-resolution display, and it looks much better, even though all of these are QHD. The Droid X2, the Sensation, and more QHD. This one looks much better. I don't see any pixelation on this. It's an absolutely beautiful display. Try to angle it where you can see it a little better in the camera. But 4.3-inch QHD display. You have an 8-megapixel camera on the back that's capable of shooting 1080p video. It has a dual LED flash. You have your front-facing camera, and you have Android 2.3 Gingerbread with HTC Sense 3.0. So it's running the newest version of HTC Sense, the newest version of Android, a new processor, an awesome camera. So this thing's pretty well equipped all across the board. It's like kind of like the Evo 4G, and I think that's where a lot of the hype for the Sensation is coming from. Is like the Evo 4G when it came out. It's really a pioneer in terms of features. I mean, it nails it across the board with features, benefits everywhere, from camera to dual-core processor to screen and more. So that's coming on the 15th for $199.99. Then you have the T-Mobile G2X. This is a good one on T-Mobile. This was their first dual-core device. So it has a 1 gigahertz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, so different, but still dual-core, and 1 gigahertz instead of 1.2. 4-inch display. So there's no, awesome QHD or Super LCD or any cool acronym behind it, but it's just a 4-inch display. 8-megapixel camera, also capable of shooting 1080p video. You have an HDMI port on this one, which is a big benefit. You have a front-facing camera as well, but it's running Android 2.2. Now, where the benefit is, it's running Android 2.2, but there's no custom overlay. Nothing like HTC Sense or Samsung's TouchWiz user interface or LG's whatever they're calling it these days, LG's custom user interface that you see on the Revolution and on the Optimus 3D. No, this comes with a stock build of Android 2.2. So you'll see, just by clicking stuff, you can see how quickly this thing loads. I mean, this thing is a speed demon. And this is what's, not to spoil the dogfight, but build quality over here, I mean, absolutely fantastic. You have your volume rocker on the left side, micro USB charging port, you have this beautiful metal strip and these this two-tone gray back. 3.5mm headphone jack up top with a power button, and then you have your 4 capacitive buttons down at the bottom. It's a curved 4.3-inch display, which I didn't mention a second ago, but it is curved, and it's not, you look at this like versus the Nexus S or Nexus S 4G, which also has a curved display. This one isn't nearly as curved. I mean, it's hard to tell unless you're really down here at the bottom or you're doing something like activating the notifications bar. You can feel it up there at the top. But, in terms of build quality, second to none here. I mean, you have this beautiful battery door removal. I'll show you how the battery door. It's a little different than most devices. It pulls the earpiece away with it, or kind of the earpiece is obviously still on the device, but it pulls away the facade of the earpiece, and then it hides behind it. 1,520 milliamp battery, 8 gigabyte micro SD card, which is pre-installed out of the box, and more. So a little bit different there, but I mean, just a beautiful device. HTC does a really good job with making these sexy, gorgeous sexy, gorgeous devices. And then you look at the G2X, and while it is an attractive device as well, build quality is arguably a little bit different, maybe a little bit, I wouldn't say worse, but more plasticky as opposed to the Sensation. That said, this one is a faster device, and we'll get into this more in the Dogfight, but it is faster overall, and it is noticeable when you're running through menus and things like that. Now, the downside, Sense 3.0 is very great or good in terms of personalization, things like that. This is a stock build of Android 2.2, so it's kind of boring, or may appear boring to some people. But then again, Android diehards may really like it. So you have a power button up here, like I said, HDMI port, 3.5mm headphone jack, you have a volume rocker over here, but otherwise pretty clean all around. You have your speakers at the bottom with your micro USB charging port, and then on the back you have your battery, 1500 milliamp battery on this one, so 20 milliamp hour difference between the two, 1500 milliamp hour there. No micro SD card pre-installed on this sucker, SIM card slot, so you can see a little difference there. So like I said, 20 milliamp hour difference. Pop that back on, and let's get into the hardware. So you can see, or the software rather, Android 2.3 over here, HTC Sense, and you really see the customization differences. We'll load up the menu, for example, see what comes pre-installed on both of these. First, you have HTC or T-Mobile Highlight. You have HTC Hub over here, which is something that debuted in the US with the HTC Inspire 4G on AT&T. It's a customization tool from HTC, kind of like an online web store of custom content, things like wallpapers, skins, widgets, things like that, and more. So you have that ability on the device, and it's nice that T-Mobile didn't lock that out like Verizon did with the HTC Thunderbolt. Big improvement there. You have Listen, HTC Listen, which is a huge thing. Lookout, Mirror, T-Mobile My Account, My Device, Polaris Office, Nova, and then a couple things I've installed. But T-Mobile TV, video chat, visual voicemail, Wi-Fi calling, and then mobile hotspot as well, Wi-Fi hotspot. So you notice that the menu is a little bit different if you look at this versus another Sense-enabled device. With the exception of the Droid Incredible 2, you'll notice that this is an improvement over Sense 2.0, or a change over Sense 2.0. It groups your apps by all apps, frequent, and downloaded. So I can see all the apps I've downloaded, go over here to frequent, or I can go to all apps and see them all at once. So instead of scrolling down line by line, like let's take a look at this. This is what HTC Sense used to do, scroll down line by line. You can see I can gently push it up and do it one by one. Instead, on this one, it brings it down brings it down menu by menu, if you will, or screen by screen. So everything you see here gets kicked away each time I scroll up on the screen. And that's evident by that little progress bar, that little cursor, I can't think of what it's called, scroll bar, over on the right side. So minor changes there. Notifications over here. You can see a few changes. This is what's on Sense 2.0, so no difference there, but you'll see these quick settings over here where I can click on those, jump over to Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi hotspot, mobile network, Bluetooth, GPS, all settings, and then of course HTC on the Sensation 4G has pre-installed their own version of Advanced Task Killer. So I haven't installed on this just for testing, but you really don't need it. They're joining the ranks of Motorola with their file manager, and Samsung with theirs, with their task manager. I said file, I meant task manager. And they're doing this on their own. So I can go over here, see what's open, I can kill all of those, refresh, and you can see the memory that I saved as a result. So Task Manager pre-installed on it, which is pretty cool. So you'll see a lot of things in Sense 3.0 that are different as opposed to 1.5 and 2.0. First of all, carousel is different here. The animations are much different. And you can keep scrolling back and forth. And you really see the detail, the attention to detail they did on this. When I click over, and you can see the little Rolodex type thing over there, and you can see over here, let me get it exactly how I want it. You can see the P's behind it. So they really put a lot of attention to detail, and you can see it here too, kind of this 3D-like effect. When I pull away with the people, the Rolodex. Half the people watching this video don't even know what a Rolodex is. You know what I'm saying? An address book. And then back to your icons. So a little bit different there, and then it brings over this thing from Sense 2.0, this new personalization menu. But the fact that HTC Hub is pre-installed on this device makes it so much better, because you have scene, skin, wallpaper, and lock screen. Now I didn't show you the lock screen at the very beginning. New lock screen on Sense 3.0 looks like this. You have 4 icon shortcuts, and you have this circle. You can do one of 2 things. You can either bring the circle up, and that opens it right up, or I can do something like go to Messages, drag it down into the circle, and it loads up the program. Now you can change those. If you're wondering, those may not be my frequently used applications, how would you change those? Actually, I want to interrupt myself. If you just saw that little lag that popped up when I opened up the personalization screen, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not really a lag, it's more of a stutter, and you see it occasionally throughout the device. Now, all devices have stutter, or most devices have stutter. I'm not saying that, or not saying that they don't. But in terms of the Galaxy S2 and the G2x, I rarely, if ever, seen any stutter. So whereas I've seen it more on this device. So it's one of those, it's a fast phone, but I don't feel like it's 1.2 gigahertz dual core fast, if that makes any sense. So scene scan, wallpaper, and lock screen. You have a couple of different options here. On the lock screen, you can go over, I have it on wallpaper right now. You can set a photo album if you wanted to. You can do friend stream, weather, which is what I had it on when I did the unboxing, stocks, and clock. So let's go over here and do weather, for example, and then settings. I can tap a shortcut to assign a new app. So let's say instead of mail, I want Gmail, let's say. Because I use Gmail, I don't really use the mail application. I can bring that down. Let's do contacts there, people. Let's see, where is it? People. Oh, just kidding, it's contacts in here. Well, dock mode. Contacts. And then phone, so we'll go to done. And then I can apply that. And now, when I go back, it'll bring up the weather for Charlotte, and it is freaking hot outside. It feels hotter than that. The real feel is like 102. And I can see that my custom apps are down there, so I can either scroll it right up like that or bring down one of those apps into the circle. Now you have seen skin and wallpaper as well, so we can go into skin and take a look at that. At the HTC skin, you can do blue sky or burgundy, and while they look the same, it changes the color scheme. Or you can click on Get More, and if you have an HTC Hub account, you can download your own skins or some other ones from HTC's marketplace. So again, a ton of ability for customization, and this is one thing that's really a selling point on the Sensation 4G. There's not a lot of customization on this, outside of a couple of widgets. You're pretty much stuck with this stock look with the 3 shortcuts down here, the typical Android 2.2 look or Froyo look with the 3 things down there, the 5 home screens, and that's it. Whereas with this, there is a lot of customization that you can do. So I think, if I were T-Mobile, that's really the selling point of this device, and that's really HTC's marketing scheme altogether, is making the device all about you. So cool customizations there, wallpaper, and then of course widgets, which we talked about HTC's widgets before, but I really want to highlight these. Again, you'll see some HTC widgets, and then you'll see the stock Android widgets. So you can see calendar, HTC and Android calendars, and you can see when we load up Android, for example, we'll put it over, I don't know if I have an empty home screen, bring that down to remove. Let's try this one more time. Android calendar, pretty plain Jane, boring calendar widget. Now, when you go to the HTC version, widget, calendar, you get 3 options. You get 3 different widget options. You get a month look, an agenda look, or a small one as well. So we'll hit select, we'll do all calendars, hit OK, and bam, it pops right up over there, and you can of course move that around on the home screen if you really wanted to. I didn't mean to click on that. Let's do that, go back, and you can really move around the home screen wherever you want it to be. So a lot of options in terms of widgets, and again, we saw the calendar widget on Android, the stock calendar widget. That's a lot of what you get on this device, just a lot of bland, kind of boring stock Android widgets. So we can go down here and take a look. Analog clock, for example, boring. Take a look at Google search, for example, pretty boring. So you get the idea. They're just kind of stock, kind of hastily rushed together widgets. HTC Sense has always done a fantastic job with widgets and with personalization as a whole, and it continues over on Sense 3.0 on the HTC Sensation 4G.